this thing on? Okay.
Welcome.
Thank you guys for tuning in.
I don't think there's anybody quite yet.
Oh,
hey. Hey, me.
Well, okay, fingers crossed, everyone, because we have our little one set up on an iPad with a ton of snacks so that we can hopefully have, uninterrupted time talking to you guys.
This is something that's very special for us during this time that we've had a lot of time to reflect and a lot of time for family. We've also been trying to change a lot of the habits. I think that for a lot of us, it's so hard to institute so much that we learn about what's healthy and what's good for the environment. And it's really hard because I think we get a little inundated with facts and everything seems very overwhelming. So we've tried to take this time to try to get out of the bad habits we've had and try to educate ourselves. So that's why we're doing this. We're trying to get educated and hoping you guys can come along with us for the ride.
Yeah, I got a big reset because I lost my company due to COVID-19. And so I started studying soil. I took the Kiss the Ground advocacy program and started learning about that and our food. Nick, you've been pretty healthy for a while, but I kind of only recently joined that. I was still like
in some ways, but I think there's always so much we can do, and more than anything, we wanted to not only be healthy, but also be healthy with a mind to help the environment, because there's a lot of information out there, and I think there's a lot of misinformation about how just even our everyday habits, how we can affect the environment. And so we're waiting right now for Eric Perner from Rep Provisions, who's going to join us and is going to give us an insight from a true professional, someone who's right there on the front lines, a farmer who has come up with a really amazing. We'll let him.
Oh, here he's. I
Here we
see.
go. I
he's
think
there.
we got you here. Let's see. Rep Provisions.
Go live. Dun, dun, dun. Come on, technology.
Technology.
Hey,
there you go. Saved for this, Eric.
Wow, guys, stepping it up.
Yeah, how's it going?
Oh, good. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're really excited to talk to you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Appreciate you guys kind of doing this for us. I'm just so thrilled about your passion behind, changing the world through regenerative agriculture. It's just super exciting.
Well, I think we could tell you that we're very excited about you and your passion for changing the world through regenerative agriculture. And you were right there on the front lines. You have, turned your family farm into it. You're talking to us from Oklahoma, right?
That's correct. Yeah. Yep. We're here at the ranch house, and we're in a little town called Mounds, Oklahoma, just south of Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Nice.
Oh, awesome. Well, our perspective, just for people watching, is we're really the everyday citizens that are trying to do good. Nick and I went through a period where we were reading a lot and learning, and so it gave us major food anxiety. What can we eat that's not only healthy for our bodies, but healthy for the planet? And then, boom, Eric, we found you in Rep Provisions, and it was like, thank goodness that there's someone out here that can be the solution to our problems and really allow us as the consumers to do our part in helping. So can you tell us a little bit about your history and your background, how you got started in all of this and all that good stuff?
Yes, absolutely. So I grew up on a cattle ranch in Oklahoma. And I kind of grew up with a dad that really pushed on me hard how important it is to work with nature. And on our small ranch, we had a very small ranch, but we raised cattle, we had goats, we had chickens, we had horses, we had everything. But he always stressed the importance of how critical it is that you manage your land in a holistic way, so that you're always monitoring everything you do has an outcome on that land. And depending on what decision you make, it can be positive or it can be negative. And so he really stressed that importance at a young age. So he was kind of regenerative before his time, before it was even a word really, and didn't really know it. He just knew inherently that that's the right way to do things, and that, we work with nature as best we can, not against it. So he instilled that at a young age in me. But as I got older, I kind of watched all the ranches around just degrade and and not promote biodiversity in the ranches. And because of this, we've had a situation where we've lost a lot of the wildlife around us. And I watched that decline from a kid. From a kid, I used to hunt, and there was always, plentiful deer, rabbit, bobwhite quail. And then as I got older and as I graduated high school, that was pretty much disappeared in such a short time. And so it kind of left me in a depressed state. I was like, I don't even know if I want to do this anymore. It's not, it doesn't matter how well I do it. Nobody else cares. And if they don't, what's the difference? So I kind of went through a time where I didn't really want to be a part of agriculture. And I didn't really want to do ranching anymore. It was still in my blood and still in my heart, but I just felt a little bit defeated. So anyway, I went in the real world and got a real job. I got a degree in mechanical engineering. And so I worked in that field for a number of years, but always with the hope of coming back to the land someday. And then in about 2006, we purchased this property, and my whole goal was to manage it better, manage like I was taught. And we did that. And we took land here that was highly degraded, and over the years made it like a little oasis here in our little community. And I think people started to recognize that, and people start to kind of recognize, hey, this guy's doing things different. His land looks different. And it wasn't until I think 2013, the regenerative term really started to get some recognition. And part of what drove that was a gentleman named Alan Savory, who I think you guys know about in the Savory Institute, which I want to talk about. He gave a TED Talk in 2013. And that TED Talk was really inspirational. And it really talked about the grasslands of the world and how they're degrading and how we're losing all this biodiversity and how we're losing, our species extinction rates are sometimes 100 to 1,000 times greater than they've ever been in human history. And so it was a huge passion of his to help restore these grasslands. And anyway, I watched that TED Talk and I got to thinking, I'm doing the same thing here in Oklahoma. I'd never even heard of this guy. Yet he captured the entire world's attention, and it really got me inspired. So I started learning about the Savory Institute. I started learning about their mission to regenerate the world's grasslands, and it got me super pumped. And so that started me down this path on regenerative and really bringing it to more folks. And I thought, well, what's the best way we can do that? What's the best way I can talk about this, what I'm doing here, and show the world? And that's when we started Rep Provisions. So Rep Provisions is our CPG company that this ranch here is a supply chain for Rep Provisions. And I thought there's no better way, to change agriculture than going directly to consumer. I mean, we can talk, we've tried, doing the political route. We've tried so many other options, but the only way is to convince that consumer that this is better for their health, it's better for the health of the land, it's better for the future that they're going to leave their children. And I think that really resonated with consumers. And that's when I was like, okay, now we've got something. Now we can make change this way. We can make it through the consumer. And so that's how that all came about. And we're just trying to also enroll, now that other family farms around me have seen what I'm doing, they're extremely interested. And so now I've got 5 family farms locally right here nearby me that are enrolled in our program and our methods, and they're a supply chain for Rep. And so that's super exciting to me. If we can do that model here, we can do it anywhere.
Now, what exactly is so important, if we could even say what is regenerative farming and why it's so important to rehabilitate these grasslands?
Yeah, and also at first, when I was starting to read about this movement, I was really interested in sustainability. But then it was the realization that, wow, we can't sustain a broken system. Sustainability can't be the ultimate goal. It has to be regenerative. Yeah, but like Nick said, can you explain what the word regenerative means and then what regenerative agriculture is?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I think in terms of agriculture, there's about 3 adjectives you could describe agriculture in. And conventional agriculture, which I would describe as highly extractive. So they're extracting everything from the soil, the nutrients, everything, and then it's having to be replaced with chemically derived fertilizers. It's highly sprayed. So I consider that extractive. So conventional is extractive. So that's one method of agriculture. The other, as you mentioned, is sustainable. So that's one more step in the right direction, and that's good. That's great. But it does us no good to sustain a broken system. So we need one step better, and that's regenerative. And regenerative is just, if I could explain it very simply, it's just nature's way. And it's basically just improving soil health, improving the capacity of that soil to grow more food over time. So it's this self-perpetuating system. And nature, just, left to its own devices, is always regenerative. I mean, the Great Plains doesn't have 3 feet of topsoil for a reason. It has that because it has this symbiotic system between millions and millions of head of bison roaming it and growing deep-rooted native perennial plants. So nature left its own devices, always regenerative. And that's just building more soil over time, regenerating degraded soils if they are, and continually improving our ability to grow more food with fewer inputs.
So to renew, to replenish, to take the soil and make it continue to grow. And for everyone who doesn't know, topsoil is, Eric, do you want to explain what topsoil is and why it's so important?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you think about Earth, our planet is really just one big rock covered in this incredibly thin layer of subsoil and topsoil. And that's what sustains all of us. It sustains every economy, every human being, everything on this little thin layer. And the fact is, we're depleting it at such a rapid pace that the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization says that there's less than 60 years of topsoil left. I mean, this is clearly, we're going out of business, and this is not good for humanity's future. And so we need to do everything we can to protect that little thin layer that sustains everything that we do. So
topsoil equals life on planet Earth. So regenerating it is not just for our gut health, but important to keep life on Earth.
And that, just to go back to the statistic you used, that's what really scared me. As Kelsey continued her education, she was coming to the dinner table each day and telling us, our family, hey, look at what's going on. Not only is everyone knows, or at least we keep hearing about the environment and how dire the situation is, and we have to work, but people don't really get a sense of what that really means. So when you say a number like we have 60 harvests left, so if you have a harvest a year, that's 60 years left of, this is very much within our lifetimes. And that means that it's just more important than ever, because it's not just providing soil that we're growing food from. This is also what is trapping the carbon, which is another big angle to all this. And that's how regenerative farming isn't just a matter of how we feed ourselves and take care of the land, but in doing so, we're also taking care of the planet and providing, the life that we're able to enjoy here.
Yeah, because that's actually a really good point. I think a lot of us know there's a climate crisis, there's a traffic jam of carbon up in our atmosphere. So can you explain why regenerative agriculture is so cool and how it can take carbon and actually put it in the ground?
Yes, yeah, it's simply, the magic of photosynthesis. So plants pull CO2 out of the atmosphere. They use that to build food for that plant and to grow deep roots. And when you let that natural system happen, that naturally pulls carbon, CO2, out of the atmosphere and stores it in the soil as carbon. And there's a full cycle of life there that's happening. And the more biological activity you have, the more carbon you can potentially be storing, or at least locking up. Some of it for a very, very long time, some of it a little less permanent. But the more biological activity we have going, the more carbon you're going to be pulling out of that atmosphere. That's just a natural function of what plants do. That's what they do. They use CO2 and then release oxygen, where humans are the opposite. But the thing you want to recognize, though, why this is so dramatic and why it has such potential is if I look at my grasslands here in Oklahoma, a typical 1 acre of native perennial grasslands, well managed, has about 1,000 pounds of plant mass on top, and then about 3,500 pounds of root structure down below the soil. If you don't plow that, that's locked away. That's carbon that will be locked away for potentially very long periods. So the potential to pull that out is dramatic. And if you think about monoculture crops, there's 500 million acres in the U.S. alone in monoculture crops that are most likely plowed every year. So they have, not only are they not storing carbon, they're probably a net emitter of carbon. So
and just for everyone who doesn't know, monoculture means that you grow one thing, like only corn, only soy. We do this on, actually, Eric, isn't it like 85% of the farmland in the United States is only growing one thing? And how many, you know, corn forests are you seeing out there in nature? Zero. Mother Nature really loves biodiversity. And part of that, as you're saying, is because then more carbon goes in the ground, the traffic jam that we have in the sky, boom, in the ground. So it's really weird to have only land that grows one thing.
And then if we look at how this all links together, though, too, is in the biodiversity then increases the biodiversity of the area, not just of your plants, but you're then bringing back birds that have been long gone from the area. You're bringing back bees, which we've been hearing so much that are disappearing. And I know on your farm personally, you guys also, not only are you raising pork, but you're also pecans as well, which then the pork then can feed off of, as well as is providing area for more birds and bees and other things, and more wildlife coming around.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Monoculture crops are strictly based on eradication of everything but that one crop, right? So it wants to kill everything else. That's the antithesis of biodiversity. And you're exactly right. And when you take that much amount of acreage and basically take it out of commission for anything except that one crop, it's a killer for species, you know. And it's unhealthy for land, because nature really abhors a monoculture. And so when we try to plant just one crop, it immediately starts attacking it. And so that's why they got to spray all these herbicides and all these pesticides and all these other things. And so monocultures are really, really bad. It's just, you know,
and
really
we know now that those pesticides like glyphosate, or maybe people know it as Roundup, are highly toxic and linked to cancer and a plethora of diseases that are totally horrifying. You know, I've been really, really scared about that. And one of the things that Eric, I'd love to hear you talk about is, not only does biodiversity do all of those things that we mentioned, but when plants grow, all of that life that is happening under the soil also allows, through fungus and all the microbes, which are the little buggies that live in the ground, allows them to share nutrients. So you can have a carrot grown conventionally, which is how we roll in the United States, that has one polyphenol, that's an antioxidant. Or you could have a carrot grown regeneratively that has 200 polyphenols. So a carrot is not just a carrot. It really depends on how it's grown, because if it's regenerative, it's so much more powerful than a conventional carrot.
And I think so many people don't realize that what is done to, when we're being fed, you know, what is being fed to our cattle, what is being fed to our livestock, what is being fed to the soil, doesn't in there. It's not a thing of like, well, we're just going to put this in and we're going to get bigger crops and we're going to get more bounty and we can feed more people. We're coming out with a product that is like food. It's like a carrot, or it's like, you know, pork. But the problem is that it lacks all of these nutrients. And then what we're actually raising, when you look at like a piece of Wagyu beef, or you look at a conventionally raised piece of beef, that this marbling and what we're always looking for, we think, you know, with grain-fed meat, is that is actually, as you know, you've told us before too, a diseased piece of meat. This is something like an animal that was kept in subpar conditions, fed, pumped with chemicals and antibiotics. And
yeah, maybe Eric, can you describe to us, like you had talked to us before about the 4 steps of conventional protein production, and I think that really goes into what you're saying. I'd love to hear, you know, what can you describe, because that was news to me.
No, and just to point out too that you're right, that I liked your point on all these biodiverse plants, how they share in nutrients. And on our farm we have extreme biodiversity here. I want more, and I get criticized a lot of time because I let my weeds grow. You know why? Because that weed will turn into a flower at some point in the year, and that'll benefit pollinators. Not only that, that weed may have a deep taproot, which helps infiltrate water and share nutrients with the other plants, which makes the whole system healthier. And so that's creating more uptake of nutrients in the nutrient cycle that the cows eat, that we then eat. So we're getting the benefit of that. So while there's monoculture crops like corn and soybean and things like that, there's a lot of ranchers who try to just keep their pastures as one monoculture, just because they want the highest protein grass and they only want that. That, to me, is not a highly functioning system, and we need to get out of that mindset, because you're exactly right how those plants share nutrients. So that was a great point. But get back to your other question about conventional beef. And typically, conventional beef is born on the farm. It's raised for about a year on the farm, and then that farmer will take it haul it to a livestock yard, will be auctioned to the highest bidder, and then that highest bidder, which is typically a feedlot, will take it to their feedlot and feed it for the next 3 months just straight grain. So cattle, for example, are ruminants. They are meant to digest grass. That's what the rumen does. That's how they metabolize grass, and it's not meant to digest grain so much. And so you take this system where you put an animal in a very small feedlot, not allowed to roam freely, feed it nothing but grain, which is akin to taking a human, locking him in a small room and feeding him nothing but donuts. Yes, they will gain weight quickly, which is what they're going for on beef, but is that healthy? I would argue it's not healthy, and I think the science backs it up.
And they're feeding them grain that's been grown with glyphosate as well. It's riddled with that, and they're then holding it in their meat, and we're ingesting.
And glyphosate, for everyone, again, is Roundup. The poison, the Roundup that we put in. So the corn that they think humans can't eat because it's too poisonous, we give it to the cows, and then we eat it when we eat conventionally produced protein.
And I see some questions coming up. We are seeing everything, and some people are asking, what can I do? What can the average citizen do? And that's exactly what we're here to tell you. We just want to let you know what it is we're facing, and we are going to tell you and share with you what Eric himself is doing and how we're all getting involved.
Yeah. And, again, it's this whole system, the monoculture crops, the feeding it to animals, to putting these animals in small pens, and that's just abuse. I mean, we can't keep doing this. We know it's not healthy. We know it's not good for the environment. We know it's not good for our bodies. And unfortunately, we've got into this system, and they've convinced folks that this is the only way you can feed people, but that's not true. The beauty about regenerative agriculture, the more life begets more life begets more life. That's how it works. The more life you have, the more life you get. That's more than enough to supply the human population, even at 7 billion folks, that we can figure this out, that we can do this. So I think the future is very bright, but we have to move faster.
So what happens? The cows, like if it was a human, we feed you donuts for 90 days. We don't let you to move. You feel awful, obviously, as we all would. And then what happens?
So after that 90 days, then it will go to the packer and the processor. And there's get this statistic, there's about 85% of all the beef in America is controlled by 4 major processors. And so they really control that market. So that's bad for the farmer. That means he's going to get squeezed at that level pretty significantly. But I can't imagine, that animal, after being stuck in a lot for 90 days, fed nothing but corn that's not his natural diet, and then travel, telling how far to be processed in a line of how many thousands they do a day. It's an ugly system, and it's something that needs to change. But then from the processor, then it's distributed, shipped all over the country and all over the world, perhaps, that ends up, at your Costco or your Walmart or whatever it is. But that's the conventional system.
The actual carbon footprint of the cow as it bounces all over the country.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I have been reading about, and you really were talking about, is what's happening to our farmers in America. I was really not aware of the struggles and the plight of the modern day farmer, that farmer suicide is an epidemic, that the average age of the farmer is over 65 because no kids want to inherit their parents' undue stress. It's like their agricultural debt is growing by 4% every year. So, and we want to, you know, big ag wants to argue we need to maintain this system, and it's broken, and
it's unattainable.
Yeah. So and that's why we're so excited that there's someone like you that's out there helping other farmers and doing the right thing. And that's where we as consumers can say, this is what we want to support. But could you share a little bit about the plight of the farmer?
Yeah. So like I said, the farmer can raise his animal. He can raise them right. And then at the end of the day, he's forced to take them to most likely, not all farmers, but they take them to a livestock facility where they're auctioned. So they're simply getting whatever's bid on him. And so they're getting market price.
Right.
Even if he's done things right and he's managed and he's added value to a healthier planet, to a healthier product. But at the end of the day, he's going to get market price. And I say that's just wrong. It's not right. If you're producing a better product that's better for the land and better for bodies, you should be able to get what's fair price. But when you have such a small group controlling that market, there's no way out of it. And so, like you mentioned, a lot of young folks just aren't getting into it. They don't see the benefit. And now big ag just, becomes that much stronger. And now it comes to a point where you have to get really big or you have to get out. So the little guy gets squeezed so hard that he can't make a living anymore. And I find that that's just atrocious, because when you look at what we spend on food in North America, which is something like $1.5 trillion, and then you look at what our food costs us, it's double. It's at least that same amount. So, the truth is, while you think you're getting a really cheap steak or really cheap egg, at the end of the day, the cost from that egg on humanity, on environment, on pollution, on our health is considerably more than we're accounting for. So,
Eric, that's a huge, that actually is something that I think we really need to put a point on to let everybody know, is that what may seem very cheap at the grocery store, and we know, look, it's tough times for a lot of people, and it's not like everybody has money to afford top quality with everything, but that's the problem, is because it can be affordable. With your model and the expansion of your model, it can be affordable. But what's so scary is that idea that it's going to cost us more, and it does cost us more. All the autoimmune diseases that have skyrocketed because of what we're ingesting through our foods. What people always think, well, it can't really be that bad, that they wouldn't allow us to. But you look at the food pyramid, you look at the standard American diet, and the SAD diet, and you look at what it's made up of and what those in charge or people in power have allowed to pass. We're paying for it triply. We're paying exponentially, on the other end with our own health. And we may be living longer, but we're not living healthier, and we're not living a full life. We're degenerating faster, and we're seeing more disease. We're seeing a lot more autoimmune. There's other aspects that people have linked to it. Autism is now 1 in 52 children. Infertility. All these things are so linked to what we're ingesting, and food is medicine. Food is life.
Yeah. I say we're dying longer than ever. I mean, that is it. Yeah, we're dying longer than ever. We're not living productive lives. We're living dying lives propped up by pharmaceutical industries. This is no life to live. And
you pay for it. You either pay your farmer or you pay your pharmacy. Either way, you pay for it.
You're paying for it somewhere.
That's the really important part. There's no cheap meat comes with a consequence.
But that's the exciting part about it, is then, so what does the little guy do? The little guy changes the practice, bands together, and creates their market, right? That's
why we're so excited about, maybe you can share your business model, and also, the business model and the transition that has to happen as you move from a conventional farm to a regenerative farm. It's not without its challenges, just like everything good. Change is hard, but I'd love to hear about what you're doing to help.
Yeah, so we have, like I mentioned earlier, we've got 5 family ranches nearby that we pay their price for what they want for their animals, and we price it accordingly on our website. So we're giving them how they can make a living again, right? So that's number one. And then we're enrolling them. I spoke a little bit briefly about the Savory Institute. So we're helping using their models, their management models, to train those farmers as well on how to be more holistic in their management of their animals. And so that's going to have a net benefit on their land. When that land improves, that land base improves, they can raise more animals on that same piece of property.
So because part of the problem is that the education is broken for farmers, and they're taught big ag and conventional farming. So you're the stepping stone to a new education. Okay.
Yeah, we're showing this new way of doing things. You know, like you said, they've always done it this way. Why would we change? You know, we always hear that same story, but we're saying, no, man, this can be done better. This is just a management issue. When you put animals on land, you can have a positive impact or you can have a negative impact. It's all how we manage those animals. And so we're training those other farmers on how to, number one, how to manage correctly, and we're giving them a fair price for their product. So that's key to getting them back in business again. And then through this model, that's going to expand to other people. We're already seeing it. I get calls every day from young folks. So, hey, Eric, I want to come learn from you. I want to start my own farm. This is super exciting because this is exactly what we need, is younger people coming in and say, hey, I want to participate in that. I want to change the world with you. And so we're getting this new interest in people knowing they want to make a difference. And now farming may be sexy again, you know, so that's our hope. And
Eric, you're bringing sexy back.
Sexy
back. Exactly. Right.
Eric's an epic CrossFitter too. You know, we're only seeing him back up. But...
Yeah. But if we can start this system where we can get the decentralized, basically, you know, from the big mega packers and feedlots, and say, hey, you can do this differently and make a living again, that's going to resonate with folks. And then also, if the carbon markets begin to develop, and you say, hey, you can store carbon in your soil and get paid for it, that's going to be, you know, game over. And we can really transition this really, really quickly.
Yeah. Get paid well and save the world. And so you've taken a 4-step process of having to go to the auction, then go to the fat farm, literally, and then the protein.
The processing, and then the market.
And now it's just farmer gets paid by protein processor, and right. Everything.
They all they do is they take their animals to the processor. It's a local processor, so it's a small processor. It's done in a way that's you know, very much more gentle on the animal. So for example, like I took some hogs in this morning at 6 a.m. They were right out in my pasture, just, you know, having, you know, great. And they hop in the trailer, they take a short ride to the processor, and they're hanging on the hook, you know, within hours. That's much kinder and gentler than dragging out a slow death for the next 90, 120 days. So that's just a better model for animals. It's better for our health as well. But yeah, you're exactly right. That's just a 2-step process. They raise the animal, they take it to the processor. It's delivered to our warehouse where we distribute to consumers. Yeah, to you guys.
And we've been enjoying it already.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And you know, there's no reason why we can't get this same model all over the nation. So in other words, so I won't have to ship to you guys from Oklahoma. We can get, you know, same people nearby or closer, at least, to California, and distribute in the same way. And that will stimulate these local economies, and that will stimulate these local farmers again that can make a living, and new processors that come on, and new family businesses that are generated. So to me, this is the future of food. This is the future of what food will look like. More decentralized system.
Yeah.
And more people involved, in a more diverse group of people involved.
I just wanted to explain that further to everybody in that idea, because that's what's so fascinating about what you're doing, and how attainable it is. Because so much when we hear about the issues going on with the environment and with our protein sources and farming and healthy food, it's just overwhelming. I think whenever you tell somebody, you just start to see this look that comes over someone where you're overwhelmed. You're like, well, I don't even know where to start. And where are the resources that we had to search, to find you and to know that there is an answer. So that's what's so exciting is you have your farm, a bunch of neighboring farms that all start to band together. You have local processing, everything happens close. So ideally when this happens is, like you said, we'll have markets over here in California, we'll have them across the nation, a web of all these with all their local that are feeding people locally. And I'm not eating meat from across the country.
And the small business owner stays empowered. It doesn't go back to a new big ag system. Maybe we can talk a little bit about, why big agriculture is so powerful currently, and the reason that they're powerful, right, is because consumers give them dollars, right? And that big ag ultimately, like any big industry, will follow the dollars. So I know everyone's asking, what can we do? Maybe we can talk about the power of the consumer.
And I think we've seen that now more than ever. We've seen what our dollars and hanging on to our dollars and choosing where we put them. You see it so much now, even in the social justice realm. This isn't far behind. This is that same sort of idea of the consumer. Now it's up to you to say, this is what I'm down with, and this is what I'm not, and this is what I'm going to feed my children, and this is what I'm not. And I'm literally going to change that by the money I hand over. Yeah. I am making that determination.
Yeah, no, like I said previously, the consumer has the greatest power to shift change. And they will get, that will get the ear of all these large conglomerates and know that, hey, we've got to change our system. The consumer is not going to buy this. And so it allows a company like Rep then to flourish and prove a better model, a more regenerative model across the nation. But I firmly believe it's got to help that consumer can shift things so quickly. I mean, just look at how quickly the organic space grew. Once the consumer decided, hey, I want organic, now it's everywhere. So it's the same with regenerative. That consumer can really shift that system quicker than any.
Maybe that was another thing I really wanted to touch on today, and I really just want to learn a little bit more about organic and grass-fed good. Is that more under the sustainable model, and then regenerative is about organic, grass-fed also, but now let's concentrate on saving the planet and mimicking Mother Nature to put that carbon in the ground? What's the difference between the two? Why do we have to step it up?
Well, so you could be organic, and which is great. I mean, that is a great thing to attain, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's regenerative. I mean, there's lots of organic monoculture farms that probably are not regenerative. So they're using, they have to bring in, fertilizers from everywhere, and they're not incorporating animals in their system. So it's not a regenerative system, but it's good. It's a good first step. Our goal is regenerative is that next level step that makes it more self-sustaining system and a regenerative system. So, to be regenerative, you don't have to be organic per se, but we know, if you're mimicking natural processes, that's going to add a more regenerative effect on the soil. So you're going to be organic, so it's not necessarily that, we don't have an organic certified product, even though we do all organic practices. We feel like the best label we can have is regenerative, because we think that's kind of where the future
certification.
That's our opinion. That's the higher certification. That's the one that's going to lead with the most change and the most benefit for our health and the planet's health.
So, and it was very interesting to learn that with organic and grass-fed, while good and essentially sustainable, it can still be degrading to the land. You can still overgraze the animals, and there could be, as you mentioned, monoculture. And one thing that I learned for people watching is when you overgraze the animals and you create bare earth, and think about, when we drive through California, we drive from
when we met you on the phone, and
we were driving from San Francisco to LA,
the Central Valley, where a lot of the food in America.
You see nothing but bare dirt. When you see bare dirt, that's dehydrated land. That's land that's dying, that has no life in that topsoil. All the microbes, all the bugs are dying, and water can't infiltrate the land. So I know people were saying,
runs through it.
Yeah, people were saying that we need to store water. Well, what's so cool about regenerative agriculture is when the land, that topsoil, is rich with life, with bugs and roots and fungus, the water can infiltrate and it can stay for drought. When it's dehydrated, when it's bare, it's been tilled and brought up, the water can only go sometimes a half inch down in a half an hour. So just this much. So you get a rain and just this much goes in the ground, and then it runs off, and immediately there's
takes
a flood.
Whatever topsoil is left as well with it.
And with the topsoil is all the chemicals that then go into our water systems. So anyway, maybe you can talk to us even a little more about the benefits of regenerative. Are just like, there's just so many.
They just keep compounding, don't they? I mean, you see it. And you're right on water infiltration is a huge component of being regenerative. And I mean, if you just think about it, if you have plants growing roots deeper in that soil and all that organic matter, creating that permeability for water to infiltrate. So now that's recharging aquifers. And just like you said, it helps sustain you in times of drought. And drought will always come. And, you know, on our ranch in general, like we've been through droughts before. And because we manage the way we do, it's never been an issue. Where my neighbors are having to sell all their cattle, we have no problem. We make it just fine. And the other thing I wanted to mention is this becomes even more critical in areas like California, which are very brittle. So you don't get much rainfall probably, you know, or maybe it comes in big waves of rain and then none for months and months and months. So it becomes even more critical that what rain does fall, you capture that. You need to capture every drop. And just think about in terms of like you said, all that water evaporates. Well, you know, water vapor is, as far as greenhouse gases go, it's the most potent there is. And so just think of none of this in the soil where it should be. That's probably in the atmosphere contributing to climate change as well. So there's just so many components of saying why we need to shift to this method of agriculture. Like you said, it just keeps, each reason just has another different benefit, and they just keep compounding.
Yeah, one of the major shockers for me was learning that what can occur with a water cycle. And so that there's no family on earth that can escape from having chemicals rain down on us right now. The water evaporates, it takes the chemicals, and because, you know, what's the percentage of how much of our farmland is growing with glyphosate or with pesticides and herbicides?
Well, I mean, there's 500 million acres of monoculture crops, and I would, you know, almost all of it has glyphosate on it. It's the main herbicide there is, and like you said, it's we know how toxic it is. I hope that it does get banned one day, but we need to get away from monoculture crops.
Well, it's changing its name now. Not only get banned, and then it's changing its face.
So that all goes up into the air, and then it rains down on us. Even if you're eating 100% organic, and you know, you can't escape how prolific the toxins are in our life. So investing in regenerative agriculture as a consumer is a way that we can stop the water cycle. We can actually stop how it's absorbed in the soil, going into our aquifers, back up into our clouds, and raining down on us. That doesn't have to be our fate, but that is right now. There's no way to escape it just because you get organic food. And I'm not saying that to scare people, but this investment is for the long term, to change the cycle of water that's happening, that is poison raining down on us. It's on our kids' soccer fields. It's in your garden. Right now we cannot escape it. So renewing the land actively is something we have to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's that water cycle is a huge component. I mean, when you think about all these ridiculous floods we're seeing, especially in the Midwest, this is a direct result of the soil not able to infiltrate water deep down. It is just absolutely a direct result of that. And this is not going to get better. until we start changing that water cycle. You know, we're running a huge experiment on humanity that we shouldn't be doing. Pumping.
Yeah, that we've proven is not good. And for some reason, big ag doesn't want to listen to science. So we have to kick them where it hurts, which is with our mighty dollar, you know.
Which is why they don't want to listen. You know, it takes all the power away from them and gives it back to not only the consumer, but smaller farmers who are dedicated to
absolutely. Yeah, you're absolutely right. They've got to get hit in the pocket. They're beginning to see it. They're beginning to see trends, so that's hopeful. But the quicker we can shift that consumer behavior, the better. And like you said, hit them in the pocketbook, because that will initiate change quicker than anything.
Yeah. So what can we do as the consumer? I mean, we are now loyalists to Rep Provisions. We're really excited about what you're doing. Is for the people listening and watching, what would you recommend? What are ways that we can support?
Number one, I mean, supporting companies. If it's not me, somebody like me. Find those local farmers that are doing, so ask these questions that you ask, and they give you good answers. You know right away, hey, this guy's doing the right thing. Try to purchase direct from the farmer if you can.
Yeah, skip those supermarkets, right?
Yeah, skip the supermarkets. But this is really difficult for farmers to do. This isn't particularly their, you know, in their wheelhouse. So Rep is that model that can help those folks, and we're going to scale Rep. We're going to scale it where we can do the same what we're doing here. I think our next spot will be on the East Coast, and then eventually in the West Coast. But if you can't source from folks like from companies like Rep, do it from your local farmer if you can. That's number one. That's the best, especially if he's doing it right? So that's number one. But otherwise, there's lots of other new regenerative sourced companies that are coming online now. It's becoming to kind of a household name, the word regenerative. So you're seeing more and more of those. But any chance you get, you know, purchase from those folks, support them, support that local farmer if he's doing the right thing. That's how you really initiate change quickly.
That's awesome. And maybe having conversation. I mean, every farmer that we've talked to, when we ask them, hey, you know, we're curious about this, it's like someone turns the light, like they get so excited to talk about this. And it shows them that, hey, consumers really care about this. This is a marketing point for me. I might be able to get more business. And yeah, it's painful for farmers to make this transition. You have to swim upstream to do it. So it's a big deal to have consumer support.
Yeah, a huge deal. And if they know that's important to the consumer, that farmer will make change, you know. But, you know, they perhaps they do need some training. You know, that's where somebody like the Savory Institute or Rep can come in and help initiate that training and just a little support. I mean, we give our local farmers the support for, you know, even after they're verified, we continue to support them and help them and watch their land. And, you know, the reason all this is we're able to do this now is because there's been a huge shift change in technology and how we can communicate and how we can gather people. And this is what's allowing all this to take place. So I know why we went down this path of get big or get out and huge companies. The little guy didn't have a chance. He was at the mercy of these, but now through, you know, companies, through, you know, we set up a simple Shopify account and we can reach everybody through a website, through the internet, through being able to talk to you guys on Instagram. I mean, this is changing the world, and we're doing it now when it wasn't before. We can get back to these more decentralized systems through technology. And also on top of that, we can help manage our farmers' land for them. So we do a lot of satellite-based system of watching their pastures and making sure they're healthy. We fly drones over them occasionally to measure, you know, to check that pasture through different technology to make sure it's healthy, make sure they're managing their cattle right. So there's so much out there that allows this to shift way quicker than could ever been done in human history before. So that's super exciting.
A perk of technology. That's good.
It's that one perk of technology. Yeah.
One.
I keep saying, and our daughter over there on the iPad right now.
Yeah, that's also a perk right now.
But, you know, I have to say that, you know, I'm continually seeing this question right now. Hi, everybody who's asking me to say hi. Yeah. I continually am seeing this question where people are saying, well, what about me, the big city dweller? I'm in DC, I'm in New York. What can I do? Well, one of the first steps is you can subscribe and have a box delivered to you from Rep Provisions. They'll send out from Oklahoma that will come to you. And in supporting what Rep Provisions is doing, you will then support the expansion of this system, and also finding, of course, your local producers whenever you can. But if you find you're more locked in and have a harder time sourcing locally, you can then support a system that is trying to bring up that system so you won't have to look much longer. Because as Eric just said, he's looking at the first expansion is to the East Coast, and that's very much attainable and very much, something that is within, these next few years, I would imagine. Yes.
Yeah, we're scheduled to do kind of a launch there in the summer. So we think in June we'll be shipping on the East Coast, and these are all verified regenerative ranches, local. This first section will be around the Vermont area, but we'll have access to Boston and New York and cities, big cities like that. So yeah,
I also just saw the question. Just saw the question. Someone was saying, I'm in Quebec, I'm in Canada. We were living there for the last 3 years. And I know that they also have a lot of different regulations and a lot of more quality meat we were finding, because of that.
Well, and I just shared on here that there's from regenerationinternational.org. And I just sent, I can pin the link, but they have a regenerative farm map. And it's an incredible tool, and it's worldwide. So yeah, check that out. You just type in your location, you type in what you want, and that should pop up some options for you. But Rep Provisions is a fantastic option. It is challenging to find. I'll have to say I'm trying to source as much as I can, not just protein, but you have to do a little bit of research. And so I keep notes on what are my brands that I approve. And those are the only brands that I buy because I want to support very specific people. There's also an app called, and I'll follow with this afterwards, guys, called.
And we are recording this, and we are going to have it available for anyone to watch. I know that question was also been asked a lot. And the map is in a link that she posted, and we will. And
we can pin it somehow on here. Would you mind seeing if you scroll back here? I'll just put it there. But there's also an app called 𝙍𝙚𝙜𝙚𝙧𝙞𝙬, and you can scan barcodes, and it'll actually rate your food on how good it is for. Here, Nick, I'll post it again. Oh, and my sister just said that as well. Here, there we go. And it'll scan the barcode, and it'll tell you how ethical the company is. There it is. So anyway, I think, do we want to go into maybe some questions?
Sure.
Okay, sure. How do we do that?
I've seen a few different ones coming through. I think that's right here.
There we go.
Are you going to save your life? No.
Save our life.
Yes. Oh, life. Okay.
All right, Dr. Melendez.
I know. We've got a lot of questions about that. I am not selling.
Yes, we will save this live and we'll repost it for sure.
Kevin, you love pizza. That's awesome. I don't know. It's kind of hard to go through these questions right now, but maybe as some pop up, if anybody's got. What I saw one question. Someone asked what to replace meat protein with.
Oh, that's an interesting question.
It's an interesting question, but I think with that, it's always making sure that a lot of you maybe eat a lot of plants. Other than that, you're looking at over-processed meat substitutes, which are almost a lot worse than some of the.
Yeah, Eric, what's your opinion on that? On the Impossible Burger and synthetic plant solutions?
Yeah, I'm not a fan, as you can imagine. And I just think, man, we've really lost our way if we think that's healthy. Number one, they're sourcing from these monoculture crops. I mean, so people think this is better for the environment, sourcing an Impossible Burger that's made with, the pea protein and probably, I don't know the number of ingredients. It's 15, 20 different ingredients in this burger. You know how many ingredients my burger has? One. It's called beef. And the nutrient density in that beef is far superior than anything in a plant protein burger.
The problem isn't animal protein. The problem isn't animal protein. The problem is conventional agriculture and how it's
And
being done.
I actually found this
yeah.
so interesting, Eric, with the biodiversity that you have on your land. If your cow eats all of that biodiversity and then this cow is humanely processed into protein, I can actually get more mineral, nutritional plant value out of your beef than I could ever get out of an Impossible Burger, right? I have more vegetable nutrition in beef than in a synthetic.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you think about, like you said, the nutrient density in grass-fed beef raised on regenerative land and very biodiverse land, and you can see it in the color. You can just see it in the color against a conventional steak. But there's clear science behind meat is just much more bioavailable for our bodies than plants. It's hard for us to break down plants. Meat is that nutrition is bioavailable. In other words, it's readily available to our bodies. It can be absorbed much quicker. And that's a huge component around how much we need to eat. I'm a big believer in mostly animal-based feed for humans. I mean, I think that's how, my family changed
you're
itself.
an animal lover, which is an important component as well.
No, absolutely. And, we know we're so grateful for the animals we have, and that they have a great life on this ranch for several years, and then they have one bad day, right? And so that one bad day, though, sustains life for my family, for many other families, where when you think about like the Impossible Burger grown on these monoculture crops, the amount of life they eradicate to grow that is not comparable to that one beef that can feed multiple families for many months. So it's different. We have to evaluate it different. We have to, change our concept of, what are we thinking is cruel, and it all comes down to how you raise that animal and how that one bad day, how that goes down. I think there's a way to do it very, kinder and gentler than what we've been doing, but it does take some change. But regardless, monoculture crops eradicate all life. I mean, they are the Sahara Desert of life. They grow one.
Yeah, it's really.
Always consider that if life's important to us, if that value of all life is important to us, we need to think about where that food comes from and how it's grown.
Yeah. Well, gosh, I can't believe it, but it's almost already been an hour, and I don't want us to do the crazy Instagram cuts us off and we hang up thing.
We're probably going to do it anyway.
It's probably
talking to you. We don't want to say goodbye.
But can we do this again? I mean, we would love to talk again and continue to learn. And everyone that has asked questions, we will copy those and make sure that those will be a part of our next live with Eric. But man, I'm super grateful. We had, as I said at the beginning, we had major food anxiety about how do we do the right thing? Who's going to help us here? And we're just really grateful that we've found you. And thank you for all of your hard work.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you both. I'm so grateful for both of you. But the fact is regenerative is having its day. It's moving, but it's not moving nearly fast enough. So, I mean, it's folks like you and getting to your audience and initiating that change at the consumer level will shift this the only way possible, I believe, to shift it quickly enough.
Well, anything that we can do to help. And we buy the meat full price because we just want to be regular consumers. We're not paid brand ambassadors, but Rep Provisions did provide us with a promo code. So Kelsey Crane or 𝐿TexMex.
Mine is 𝐿TexMex, 𝐿TexMex.
And you guys get 15% off. So please, make this leap and do something good for your body, for your family, for your children, for our planet. And let's support the farmer.
Yeah. If you can support us, I promise you we can scale it much quicker. The fact that Impossible Burger and those others are worth $7 billion is that's not fair. We need to shift that dynamic. But yeah, www.eatrep.com is our website. Use those codes, man. We'd love to ship you some fresh, regenerative, grass-fed animal proteins.
And bone broth.
Oh yeah, the
bone
bone broth is amazing.
Yes, whole animal. We just finished a run on our beef stick, so a shelf-stable beef stick. All ingredients. It's amazing. I can't wait for you guys to try it. So
thank you so much, Eric.
Thank you both. Love you guys. Thank you.
Love you too.
Love
Thank
you
you
too.
so much for joining us.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Thank you all for chiming in.
Thank you guys.
Tuning in. Bye.